My friend, welcome. This is our Lionel Legal. This is the legal version, the legal aspect, the legal sister channel, so to speak, of our Lionel Nation. I welcome you to join us. I want to discuss something with you regarding the notion of anarchy. Now, anarchy has a lot of different definitions. Definitions that some people, it's anarchy is the opposite of hierarchy. From government, it doesn't necessarily mean totalitarian ruthlessness and out of control, but it does conjure that. So, irrespective of what we think, that's something which I wanted to bring to your attention. We're going to talk about this because, especially when we talk about a lot of folks in the biz, in the leftist world, who talk about defunding the police, what would it be like without police in the first place? But before we do, I want to bring you up to speed on something which is very, very critical, very, very important, which means a lot to me. My dear friends, my friends and patriots, let me hit you with the truth. When disaster strikes, speaking of anarchy, when you are on your own, there's no FEMA, there's no government, there's no politician, nobody coming fast enough to save you. We've seen it before with whether it's Katrina or East Palestine, I should say, Maui, North Carolina floods, Northern California floods. Promises are made, speeches are given, but while the bureaucrats hold press conferences, ordinary Americans like you are left with no food, no water, no plan, no nothing. That's why I trust and commend to you my Patriot Supply with preparedwithlionel.com. They are America's most trusted name in emergency preparedness, and millions of families already know why. This isn't hype, this is peace of mind. Their 3-month emergency food kit is the gold standard. Over 2,000 calories a day, 22 varieties of meals fortified with vitamins and minerals, and sealed to last up to 25 years. And that means that when grocery store shelves are empty, you're calm, confident, and in control. Now, here's the kicker. Right now, when you order the 3-month emergency food kit, listen carefully, you get 4 additional weeks. It's a month free. That's a $247 value if you act now. Absolutely free. Think about it. 4 months of survival food delivered right to your door, ready whenever you want. So don't wait for panic to set in, for anarchy. Don't be the person rushing to empty shelves. Be the one whose family is fed, safe, and secure. Go to preparewithlionel.com. I have a link right here in the description section and in the comments section. That's for you to look at and lock in this deal today. You will never regret being prepared. I promise you. Now, my friends, let's talk about this notion of anarchy. What does it even mean? What would it look like? What would the world look like? What would everything look like? Imagine the United States of America with no police, because this is what a lot of these radical leftists are talking about. They're talking about defunding the police. Defunding the police. It blows my mind. Defunding the police. And they say this with a straight face. They say it, and I don't think they really understand it. They've talked about reimagining the police. They've talked about restorative justice. They've talked about other things which they believe sort of makes sense, but it doesn't. It is, my friends, one of the most frightening concepts ever. And I can't say this enough. And when I hear people talk about it, I say, do you really understand what this is, how this works? And I don't think they do. And that's why it's incumbent for us to make sure we always remember this. And we remind these folks, because I think sometimes they're children. I think they live in a world that believes in this kind of a phony baloney. I think they mean well. I think in their mind, I think they believe that there's some kind of world where they can get rid of the police, where utopia can set in, where we don't need these nasty police with nasty guns protecting you from nasty criminals. I really think they think, though. I really think they think that. But I want you to imagine the United States with no police and no sheriffs, no state troopers, no FBI, no courts, no NSA, no nothing, no FBI, no CIA, no National Guard, no jails, no presidents, no enforcement, no deterrent, no consequences. Imagine flipping a switch where the rule of law disappears in one instant. What would follow is not freedom in the romantic sense of Thoreau's cabin or hippie commune. It will be the raw, brutal, merciless world of human nature stripped bare. It will be anarchocracy, mob rule. And the very first days would be chaos layered over confusion. People would at first hesitate, unsure whether the collapse of law was permanent or temporary. But the criminal underclass wouldn't wait. They would move instantly. Looters would pour into stores, stripping shelves bare. Preparewithlionel.com. Guns, liquor, jewelry, cars, cash, everything would vanish. Pharmacies would be overrun within hours. Not just by junkies hit, by some Jones, but by opportunists. Every pill, every syringe, every opioid stolen, traded, every bath salt, every Tide, everything, soap, deodorant, razors. You've seen it right now. That's why they have to lock up toiletries in a world that theoretically has law and order. Banks would close imminently, but without police. Desperate mobs would smash ATMs. They would raid vaults, torch financial centers just to leave nothing behind. Cash would still matter in the first week, but soon physical goods would become the currency. Bullets, food, gasoline, antibiotics. Gold wouldn't matter. Currency wouldn't matter. It would be barter and trade. What good would gold do you? What? What do you? I mean, you could exchange it, but your credit card would be useless as monopoly money. Eventually, the internet would be shut down because who would? Where would the support functions be? And within days, there would be roving bands of criminals that would form. Crowd theory tells us, and this is Gustave Le Bon and others, crowd theory tells us exactly what would happen. Crowd theory tells us that once a critical mass of lawlessness is normalized, once it occurs, individuals behave with less restraint. You saw a little bit of it during George Floyd, but that was nothing. That was mild. That wasn't even it. The mob emboldens the crowd. Men who would never rob a store alone would join 50 others, laughing as they kick down the doors. It'd be kind of fun. I've seen this. People who would never think they would do it. Look, if everybody's doing it, whatever. One more is not going to kill you. Why not? Why shouldn't I get something? Why shouldn't I? Everybody else did. This is how riots have always been. Autocracy, which is mob rule, then takes over. Street corners are no longer intersections. They are checkpoints. Whoever controls the block controls who passes. You got that one? It'd be almost, you would see a superstructure within the rioters, if that makes any sense. It would be kind of interesting to see how that would work. And then to be armed gangs, they would dominate. Oh, they'd have guns. See, every major city has existing criminal organizations. Gangs, cartels, syndicates, whatever you want to call it. And without law enforcement, without any kind of control system, they control neighborhoods, not with ballots, but with bullets. And then guns become the new constitution. Who has the AR-15s, 9mm shotguns? Who's in charge? It becomes little fiefdoms, little conclaves and enclaves and little covens and consortia of crime. And those people with the new law, who write the new law, vigilantism. Vigilantism rises in the suburbs where panicked homeowners band together in neighborhood patrols, and then that builds up. Imagine cul-de-sacs transformed into barricaded compounds. Neighbors standing guard with rifles, ready to shoot anyone who crosses the invisible line. And there's no police. There's no 911 to call. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to fight this. Nothing at all. Vigilantes would be both saviors and executioners. And without police, interestingly enough, to to arrest and courts to try. Every every suspension of the law, and every suspicion, every hint, everything becomes a death sentence. If someone is caught breaking into a garage, lynched on the spot. You think I'm kidding? This is what happens if you don't have the police. This is what these radical leftists are talking about. What about an accused child predator? Dragged into the street, beaten until no appeals, no due process. That's what true lynching is. Lynching doesn't necessarily mean around the neck. It means some kind of an extra due process sentencing. No Miranda rights. The mob decides who lives, who dies, who comes, who goes. Innocence becomes irrelevant. Its reputation, its rumor, raw fear determined, and it layer upon layer upon layer, it gets worse and worse and worse. And the cities descend into chaos. The big cities first, the big ones first. Think about it. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, millions crammed into tight quarters, devolve into rotting carcasses. I'm trying to think of the imagery of civilization, like a deer hit by the side of the road. You see that in Jersey all the time. Fires burn unchecked because firefighters won't respond without protection. And once the water is shut off or commandeered, then there's cholera, dysentery, it spreads, trash piles up in the streets, rats multiply, disease follows chaos like vultures on a battlefield. You getting the picture of this? Now, this is what they want. Remember, this is what the New York City mayor Mamdani wants. This is what happens if there's no order. There's no law and order. And we almost saw it. We almost saw it with George Floyd. The rural regions hold out longer. They're smarter. They're wiser. But even their order cracks down. Farmers defend their land with what? Rifles? Hungry gangs start moving outward, raiding livestock, silos. Highways become kill zones. Imagine controlled by what? Marauders who demand tolls of food and fuel or flesh. Travel becomes impossible without convoy, without arms, without blood. We kill each other at a Chipotle or a Carnival cruise. This is when we're happy. You hear what I'm saying? This is when we're happy. And crowd dynamics means cities will see mass panics. And then there's stadiums and malls and churches, once that were, gathering places for people in terms of, entertainment and the like. They become arenas for stampedes, massacres. And the psychology of the mob is cruel. It's brutal. Once people see violence rewarded, remember the idea of the crowd is that you lose individuality as you become subsumed in the superstructure of the mob. Restraint evaporates, violence rewarded, men cheer as women are, well, you can imagine. Bystanders join in crimes that they never would have conceived of alone, or clapping and watching things without you. You're not going to run in and help anybody. You're watching this. It becomes gladiator night. Bloodlust spreads like contagion. And then property crime would be universal. But you see, violence and violent crime explodes. I keep saying this word exponentially. I got to watch my YouTube. Becomes a weapon of war, a tool to assert dominance and terrorize community against women. We saw this in the DRC. Murder becomes a matter of convenience, a way to silence witnesses, to seize possessions, to settle scores instantly. Kidnapping becomes commonplace, not for ransom, but for slave labor, trafficking. With no law, women and children are the most vulnerable. Every predator knows there's no 911 call. No restraining order. No detective hunting them down. You never thought about this before, did you? Courthouses abandoned. Courthouses. Jails are emptied. Every felon unleashed. Men serving life for murder are suddenly free. And many will return to their trade immediately. Armed robbery, carjacking, home invasion become nightly rituals. With no law, there's no deterrent. Deterrence is what law is. If you remove it, and only fear of reprisal, I guess, remains. Reprisal from the mob, not from the good guys, but from the gang, from the vigilantes. Gunfire, you hear it all day long. It echoes day and night, day and night. Ammo becomes the true gold. You want to invest? Ammo. You can have a pantry full of food, but if you can't defend it, it'll be gone by sundown. You never thought about this, did you? You never did. I don't blame you. Why would you? Every neighborhood becomes a fortress. Every household becomes a bunker. People who never thought about touching a gun, people who never touched a gun, all of a sudden they say, wait a minute. They are loading magazines, sleeping with shotguns across their laps. Gun stores would be looted within 24 hours. So now weapons are pried from the dead, stolen from patrols, stripped from friends and new enemies. It's mobocracy. It means politics dissolves. Mayors, governors, even presidents are powerless when their words carry no force. We can take over everything. Forget the idea that, well, they have the 82nd Airborne. Really? Good. Terrific. There's 340 million of us. Police unions disband, courts burn, military units dissolve. Some desert, some remain, but all must eat, all must defend themselves. Imagine rival militias forming, claiming to be the real government, to be the one. We're in charge. But in truth, they're just armed tribes carving out freedoms. And it reduces to the most primordial, the most primitive, the most tribal of everything you've ever seen. And without law, contracts vanish, your mortgage, your lease, your paycheck, all meaningless. Employers can't protect workers, so there's no jobs. Schools close permanently. Universities become looted shells of something. Hospitals collapse when doctors flee after the first armed raid on a pharmacy. And in 1 week, America's billion-dollar institutions are rubble. What took centuries to build is undone in days. And you think somehow there's going to be some order? You think you're going to what? You're going to be able to, that can't happen. We have the police. We have the military. Really? I just told you what happens. See, mob theory tells us that when crowds lose fear of consequences, violence escalates until exhaustion. It won't stop at looting. It escalates to extermination. Entire neighborhoods torched simply to prevent rivals from taking them. Food warehouses burned. Costco, Trader Joe's, stop it. Burn, not stolen, because in anarchy, scorched earth is easier than defending assets. Now, in true anarchy forms, morality dissolves. Not because every person is evil, not because we are inherently evil, but because every person is forced to make impossible choices. Do you share your food with starving neighbors or save it for your children? Do you risk your life? What? Do you risk your life helping a stranger or locking the doors and praying? The longer the lawless world continues, the more even good people become savage. And compassion is a liability, especially in a group and a society where mercy is not reciprocated, where mercy is like, what? Mercy doesn't do anybody any good. There's no morality in this. And again, ochlocracy, mob rule, in the end stage. Imagine people's courts in the street, vigilantism, the men of honor, so to speak. Imagine crowds of thousands chanting for executions. Imagine nooses on traffic lights, bodies left as warnings. Imagine mass graves dug by bulldozers, filled not by soldiers, but by citizens exacting some kind of vengeance. See, once law is gone, The primal hunger for dominance takes over. It's like the old, if you take antibiotics and yeast infections take over and spread because the good bacteria is killed. The United States under true absolute anarchy is not freedom. And again, I'm using the term anarchy. I know an anarchist would tell you that's not what we mean. This is a shortcut. We'll use this term just like we use the word Sharia and communism. This isn't liberty. It's not rugged individualism. It's the war of all against all. It's Hobbesian. The war of all against all. And if every man armed, every woman endangered, every child terrified, that's what happened. What do you think happens then? It's roving bands of marauders, vigilantism as justice, and crime as currency. It is the triumph of mobocracy and the collapse of civilization. It's fascinating because, as Joni Mitchell says, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And you don't know what will happen with this if it somehow takes over. You see, here's the brutal truth. Law is the only thing standing between civilization and barbarism. That's it. It's not perfect. It's not always fair. If you decrease it in the least, you may not get this, but you will get something pretty close to it. None of this it's not perfect. It's not always fair. But without this, there's no right or wrong. With no police, no order, no rule of right or wrong, America becomes a hunting ground. And if you think I'm exaggerating, anybody think I'm exaggerating? You think I'm just exaggerating? Do you think this is just, oh, that can't be? Do you truly think that? I know you do, because people love to always say, he's doing it again. This guy's doing it again. He talks about this. He's nuts. I don't know what he's talking about. He's always, whether it's 9/11, yeah, that's me. I plead guilty. I imagine the worst things possible. And you know what's worse? I'm right. I am so right. It's horrible being right. It's horrible. I mean it. We have coming up 9/11. And you know and I know, every year I feel the same way. It's like, why do you people bother? Why do you people bother? Why are you even in the... Why do you even pretend? And we always say, never forget. We forget everything. We forget everything. Every single thing there is. Everything. Everything. It's the most incredible thing anybody's ever seen. Don't get me started, because now we're getting into 9/11. See, I have no faith in anyone. I have no faith in anyone. I have no faith in people. I have no faith in society. I have no faith in law and order. Nothing. Nothing. I have no faith in any of this. It's not because I'm a bad person. I mean, I love you, but you don't know what you're capable of if things happen. You don't know what would happen, what you could do if there was a complete and total breakdown of law and order. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like. And we've got people in our city. We've got this Mamdani guy, and we've got other places, and in L.A. and Chicago, and we have other people too, like Pritzker in Illinois, the governor, who is actually turning away law and order. They don't want this. They don't have anything to worry about because they live behind, castles and that's. But Allende found that out. We can have coups. Everything that's happened in the country before, in the world, can happen here. There's nothing special about us, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing special. There's nothing great about the United States. We're not special. We're not unable to handle this. I have a friend one time, I'll never forget this. He said, I'm going to get a shotgun. Really? I said, what are you going to do with a shotgun? He said, well, I'm going to protect myself. Do you ever shoot a shotgun? No. But I'm going to learn. Okay. You ever see how loud a shotgun is? You ever see a shotgun inside your house? It's bad enough at the range, but you've got ears on, you got eyes. But I mean, you want to shoot a shotgun? Where are you going to keep the shotgun? Can you really do this? And he's talking like people do when they don't really sit there and break it down and think of the nitty gritty like I do. I really think about it. And I imagine it. And they don't. And they can't. and it's not their nature. And what I'm telling you, my friends, is that there are people who want to destroy us by, first of all, taking away the ability for us to protect ourselves. And then later on, once that's gone, we will consume ourselves. We will do the extermination for us. There are people out there in the world who are savages, absolute savages, monosyllabic, cretin, inbred, horrible people with no sense of right or wrong, no sense of connectivity, and no sense of any respect for your property or your family or your rights. And in the event that we ever do anything to allow there to be a disruption, see, that's when I talk about, it's so clear to me. I mentioned preparewithlionel.com. There's this link. People don't like to hear that. They don't want to hear about these products because that means, well, there might be a need for them. Yes. Yeah. I don't know what's happening in weather. I'm going to be talking to Dane Wigington pretty soon. I don't know what's happening with the weather. I don't know what's going on here. But I will tell you this, my friend. I will tell you this on a regular basis. I will tell you something which is so scary and so frightening. We live in a world right now that is so monumentally bizarre. And I don't know what I worry about more. The bad guys or the Americans, the fellow Americans of mine, who don't seem to care about anything. So I'm going to leave it at that. Think about this. I also invite you, if you are a parent, a grandparent, a guardian, a concerned friend, please follow my beloved wife, my beauteous, gorgeous wife, Lynn's Warriors. Lynn's Warriors. It is so important. Let me tell you about this. I've said this before. YouTube apparently doesn't care for her. And the reason is, I think, maybe because she's talking about children and digital safety. And maybe the Peter Thiels of the world and others don't like this. I don't know. But she'll put the most, I don't know, helpful, dare I say, benign and anodyne video up, and they won't monetize it. I don't understand it. Joe Rogan saying F this, F that. I mean, it's just, and that's fine. Somehow they can find advertisers, but this can't. So it's important for you, and I ask you to follow Lynn's Warriors. And I always said, my people, our people, never let us down. At Lionel Nation, we do it, and here at Lionel Legal. So please follow Lynn's Warriors and learn. Listen to what she says. It's incredible. That's number one. Number two, Lionel Nation is the other one. But make sure you are subscribed here. 80% of the people who watch us don't subscribe. And make sure you're subscribed so that you know when we do live broadcasts like this, you'll always be available to join us. All right? Okay. So thank you, dear friends. Have a great and a glorious day. Don't ever change. I mean that sincerely. And until we meet again, remember, as we always say, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you. Dad.